Everyone knows that their branding has to be consistent, but oftentimes they associate that with visuals and not so much with the message. If I asked you, is your company's brand message consistent? You might answer yes. But let's take that a step further. What if I asked about the tone? As a parent, you know that the tone and what is actually being said by your kids are two very different things. The tone can have an implication that doesn't come across in the words, and that becomes very important in the brand. The tone is essentially going to be the attitude and the way that something is delivered, the way that the message is delivered. It's going to be that personality behind the message. And why it's important is because it's going to showcase the value of your brand to your customers. For example, and I love to use airlines because they're so diverse and there are so many of them. For example, Southwest, their messaging, whether it's on social, whether it's their website, the emails that they sent out, very consistent messaging, very consistent tone. It's very familiar, it's not as professional, it's more informal, but it usually has that feeling of talking to a friend, talking to family. They're always very people-centered. So on social media, for instance, they'll talk about, just on Instagram, they'll talk about the fact that their people did a great job in a snowstorm or what have you. They'll talk about the people that are flying on their airlines. They'll make it very approachable and again, very people-centric because that's what makes up their brand. And their tone helps to create that value, as well as, and then there's, JetBlue, and JetBlue will have messaging that's a little bit more fun, a little bit more about the places that they visit versus the people that make up the company, and that's fine. United has a very professional and systematic tone to all the messaging that they deliver, and that's fine for their customer. Not everybody is, of course, your customer, and so what you're trying to do through your tone is convert the ones that make the most sense for your brand, for your business. If you're gonna be fun, keep it fun. If you're gonna be more professional, that's fine as well. The thing to keep in mind is that you have to be consistent with that, and that has to be part of your brand strategy. So whoever is developing your messaging, if you have an outsourced ad agency, if you have an internal team, if you have both, the brand strategy must be followed to a T, including the messaging. So there's definitely got to be some standards set up for the messaging and the tone and the way that things are delivered across all media. Again, we've talked about the tone is what creates value, but it's also what creates familiarity. You expect that when you talk to one friend, they have a certain personality, and when you talk to another, they have a very different personality, perhaps. But if they changed their personality every day, you probably wouldn't be friends with them because you wouldn't be able to keep up. And the same is true of a brand. If you think of it as a person, that tone is going to have a very individual personality, and if it's constantly changing, you're not going to make the necessary connection with that brand. So again, just to recap, keeping the tone consistent helps you to convert your ideal customers. It helps to create familiarity, but it also establishes the value that you bring to the table. So even though we tend to associate, or people tend to associate brand strategy with visuals, it's very important that the message and the underlying tone is also consistent and fits within the brand strategy.